Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Mel and I miss you guys so much. We can't wait to be back together with you guys. I don't really have many announcements, just if you want to come to church, let me know. I'll tell you a time. We still can't pick people up, but we can do our best to get you there. If you need anything else, if you guys just need to talk, you can always text me, text Mel, and we'll see what we can do. I do want to request a special prayer for one of our youth. Not going to say their name, but they're going through a particularly difficult situation right now. We want to remember them in prayer. In addition to all of the prayer that we should be doing. Oh, my cat apparently wants to be part of the video. Hello, buddy. Okay, that was weird, but he just is crawling on my lap. It's really distracting me. It's okay. Who am I kidding? No one watches these videos anyway. So, anyway, he's my cat. But anyway, we should all just be praying for each other. So, this week I want to talk about the Israelites. Now, this is Old Testament. We're looking in Exodus chapter 1. I'm going to go back a little further, though, than Exodus chapter 1 to kind of lay the groundwork for the story I'm going to tell you. So, there's this guy named Jacob, and he had 12 sons. One of his sons' name was Joseph. If you know Joseph in the Bible, this is that Joseph. Joseph goes to Egypt through some circumstances he couldn't really control, and that's a whole story. We can talk about that story later if you're curious, but that's not what we're talking about today. Anyway, at the end of the Joseph story, Joseph is like, hey, Dad, since there's a famine in Israel anyway, meaning they didn't have any food, why don't you come and live in Egypt? So that's what happened. Jacob and his family, which was 11 sons, and those 11 sons had families. They lived hundreds of years back then. So there's tons of people, okay? And so they make this cross-country move. I mean, it's a haul. And Joseph is like, hey guys, why don't you just, because Joseph was one of the leaders of Egypt. So he's like, hey guys, why don't you guys just set up in Goshen, which was a part of Egypt, and you can have that land, and you can plant your crops, and you can, do your thing. You can buy, sell, trade, whatever you want. So the Israelites down there, okay, they're vibing. They're just they're rocking this land of Goshen. Years pass, generations pass, okay? Hundreds of years pass. I mean, we're looking at probably hundreds of years, most likely, I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. But we're definitely looking at close to 100 years, okay? So all these people die. Joseph dies. Joseph's brothers dies. Their dad dies, etc. And, the Israelites are still in Goshen. They're still vibing. They're still doing their thing. They just kind of stayed there. They never went back to Israel until there was a tribe. Well, this is the theory anyway. A tribe of people came into Egypt, and they just they took over. It was an overthrow. They overthrew the Egyptian government, and they set up their own new Egyptian government. So this guy, he didn't know who Joseph was because he wasn't around at the time. He didn't know who these Israelite people were. All he saw was that there was a bunch of people that were not Egyptians in Egypt just doing whatever they wanted to do. And this guy was kind of a wimp, and he got scared. And he's like, okay, we need to do something about these Israelites. And so he took some of probably his military people, and he gave them whips, and he said, go and make sure that the Israelites are basically so tired that they can't overthrow him. Okay? Basically, he's like, wear them out. And so the Israelites became slaves. And I do not know what he is doing. He's gone. Anyway, the Israelites were slaves, and they remained slaves for quite a while. And so they built statues, they built structures, they were just the workforce. And Pharaoh is like, okay, they're still multiplying, they're still having kids, there's more of them, and there keeps being more of them, and this isn't good, because if they just decide randomly they want to overthrow me, they can overthrow me. They've got way more people than we do. So he tells his, to make a long story short, he tells the Israelites that if a male child is born, they're supposed to throw that child into the river. And as you guys know, babies can't swim. In addition to this, the Nile River has crocodiles and hippopotami, which is the plural of hippopotamus. Fun little English fact for you. So there's hippopotamuses, to be colloquial, and there's crocodiles. And babies can't swim. That's really the main thing. And so Pharaoh is basically saying, if you have a male child, you're gonna die. Or it's gonna die. The baby's gonna die. Throw it in the river. Kill it. Kill the babies, is what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying. And this creates a problem. And so one of the Israelites has a baby. She doesn't want to kill it, so she puts it in a basket. That baby is Moses, that we'll talk about, I'm sure, at some other point. But I want to draw attention, though, to the situation of the Israelites. See, Moses would eventually go on to deliver the Israelites from the Egyptians, and he would lead them almost all the way back to Israel, where they were supposed to be in the first place. Eventually, after years, probably 40 to 80 years, approximately. But the Israelites were not having a very good time. And sometimes I get to feeling kind of bad, and I get to feeling sorry for myself, especially in times like this, in this virus. And I like to think that I've got it bad. And you may like to think that you've got it bad. And maybe you do. Maybe you just really have a crappy go at life right now. I get it. But when you look at the Israelites, and you look at what they were going through, you realize something. You realize that even though it seems like God had disappeared and that he was not taking care of his people anymore because he allowed them to be enslaved, all during that time, even though it seems like that, God was hatching a plan to save the Israelites and to get them back to Israel, where they were supposed to be in the first place. And sometimes when bad things happen, it's not because God hates you. Well, it's never because God hates you. That's what I'm trying to say. But whenever something bad happens, you can be sure that God still has a plan for you. And as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, he's going to help you get to where you need to go. And we know this because even over 100 plus years of persecution and slavery, God rose up a deliverer. He rose up Moses to come and save the Israelites from their problems. So understand, I'm not telling you that bad things don't happen. And I'm not telling you that there's always a positive side to everything, because sometimes it seems like just negatives. But when you're following God and when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're following him to the best of your ability, the Bible promises that he's going to work things out for our good. And sometimes that good is not exactly what we expect. I'm sure the Israelites didn't expect to be enslaved for years, right? But his promise is that for those people who are called by him, which is all of us, and those people who are working his will and fulfilling his purpose, which should be all of us, that he has a plan and he's working it for our benefit. That's it for this week. Sorry for not being too active in the last week. I had finals. I know I texted you guys that. But yeah, I had finals, so I'm using that as my excuse. Hopefully we're going to set up a youth Zoom or group chat discussion. I don't really see us getting back together as a youth group in person for a while. So I'm going to try and see what we can do. We love you guys. We miss you guys, and we can't wait to see you again. We're praying for you. Be praying for us. And if you want to come to church, again, just let me know. All right? Have a good week, guys.